I feel like we should probably figure out a way to begin the show that involves talking about how fantastic you are, how fantastic I am, and how all of this is put together through the genius, how everything is written, including the improvisation, by Mark Skeens. And that way, if it sucks, it's all his fault.
It's them damn O'Malley brothers, and we bound to find some trouble if it takes us till the clock turns around. Yo, you can find us down in Dublin town. We'll be hoisting up a glass and pinching biddies on their ass until they lay us in the goddamn ground.
I wanted to bring up the iPhone thing, the Apple thing.
I mean, there's alternatives, and if that's the direction where Apple's going, I don't think Steve Jobs would have gone along with that for a second. Apple basically has made an agreement with the United States government, essentially, to set up a program that would allow the government or police to shut down videotaping and photographing capabilities on Apple products in given set zones at given set times. So, like, if you're at a protest, the police force could deactivate the recording capabilities of all iPhones in that area, meaning that there's no longer a way for people to record the police abusing
whooping
people.
ass.
That's the only reason why that would exist. The only thing that phones being able to record have been a problem with have been police being caught being fucking idiots. And now Apple has gone, oh, okay, we'll set up a program where that won't happen anymore. That means that you, one of the things protecting you, a citizen, and your fellow citizens in such an event you're now being disarmed of that protection from police battery. So I'm just gonna, I have an iPhone, I also have a Samsung, it's a piece of shit. But I'm going to use it instead because fuck that.
But it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't.
No, it's already in place.
It's in place.
It's in place. If there's
and you're
a
just going to abandon shit before there's ever
if there's a protest tomorrow, someone might get batoned in the head, and it won't be filmable by an iPhone.
It will be filmable on your Google phones. If you
on
guys
your
wanna
Google phones,
Android,
on your Samsung phones, on your handheld, anything not Apple.
But but seriously, do you think it's do you see any light of this? You know, do you see like, hey, this is good for X amount of reasons, or not
at all.
It's
complete. Like the reasons that they would give are for like positional integrity stuff, like, oh, in case we're doing things that people need to not know about. But if you look at the last year, the problems that have been had and who was having problems with people taking video on their iPhones were not people, and they weren't police engaging in clandestine activities against criminals. The only people that had trouble with iPhones filming them last year were cops doing stupid shit to innocent people.
From Occupy LA and
that's it. Occupy Berkeley.
Is that where the girl got beat up?
The UC Davis.
This is UC Davis
when they
girl
fucking pepper sprayed a female student sitting Indian style on the ground. That guy going like just pepper spraying kids in the face. And Apple's going, you're right. American government, that video totally should not have been put out there. That really did compromise the integrity of the police force. No. The actions of the police force are the only things that can compromise that. People being aware of it are like, and I don't know.
But it
would be interesting to argue the constitutionality of them even doing that as a business themselves.
If I can,
because that might actually at this point be a violation of the freedom of press.
If I can just play devil's advocate just a tiny bit. Not that I don't understand the absolute nature of why this is wrong, but as you said with Chick-fil-A, you shouldn't hold the 16-year-old girl who's sitting there trying to just make an extra couple bucks running the drive-thru accountable for the one asshole who made the mistake. It's the same situation as you can't hold the entire police force of, or of our nation, let's just say all police period, responsible for the stupid mistakes of one guy who pepper sprays a girl at Berkeley. And the problem is that
no one's holding them accountable. But when you
see that, if you see one police video, if you see a police video where one cop is a dumbass and does something stupid to someone who is innocent, when that video goes viral, it is not the grand response to it is not that guy's an idiot, get him off the force. We don't like him. He's the asshole. How could he do something like that? The immediate group mob dangerous response is that cops are bad. Cops are idiots.
Well,
they're inflecting our rights. They're, you know what I mean? And it's obviously people are people, and there's dumb people in every profession.
Yes.
So I think it's dangerous when
in that case,
video like that goes viral, because you can punish that one person. That cop can get punished appropriately. But when the whole public starts to feel like starts to blame the entirety of the institution against one man.
It's not about blame, though. It's about accountability. I think ever since Rodney King, I think it's been not just American, it's everyone's civil responsibility whenever police are involved to start filming it. That's what I think. Because the law doesn't hold the law accountable. Police are in a position to get away with any number of constitutional violations in innumerable circumstances. And the only thing keeping them from doing that is accountability, public social accountability.
So you think that given the opportunity, every man in uniform would overstep his bounds knowingly just because he thinks he can? You think every cop would just take that extra step?
No, I don't.
Because that's kind of what you're assuming. If you say we need to tape every incident with every cop, you're assuming that every cop in every situation that they think they can get away with something is automatically going to try.
I think that I'm saying that it could potentially be that person.
You got something to say?
Yeah, because it goes both ways. Because the thing is that there's been a lot of incidences also where, I mean, it's one person's word against the others, and you've got people who are claiming suits against police officers for all kinds. It was he was racist, he was sexist, he did this, he did that, he did the other thing. Where if that had been captured, you could have absolutely documented whether or not he was just doing his job or whether or not he really was racially discriminating or profiling or just being an asshole.
Correct.
But because that's why I thought that like they've got those little cameras mounted on the cop cars, like. It can only be within a police officer's best interest to have everything documented so that when it comes to all the paperwork and going like, did you really pull your gun at the right time? That he can go, I fucking absolutely did. Look at the video.
Yeah, because they tape everything themselves. They have the videos on the car.
But they're not always in front of the cameras.
But they don't tape everything.
But on the other hand, he could also be like, oh no, something was wrong with the camera that day.
Right, exactly.
Because I had a crazy incident, Bob's Big Boy, where all of the cameras were suddenly not working when it was time for trial. When I was accused of interfering with a police officer in the line of duty by sitting down across the booth from two cops and saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. How's your night going?" And it was Burbank, and they were just sitting there, and I wanted to tell them hey. This town is rough, and I really appreciate that you guys do this work, and it's got to be stressful and shitty. And oh my god, they fucking went crazy.
Were you intoxicated?
I was.
I feel this way though.
So
yeah, but
that doesn't help your cause. I'm just saying that doesn't help your cause.
But my words were, "Good evening, gentlemen."
Yeah.
There's no law against being intoxicated. There's no law against being friendly.
There's
and
if you're intoxicated in public, there is.
Right. Which I should have been arrested for then.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. And they told me, get back in your booth now. So I was like, okay. And then my friend John walked over, and they just radioed for backup and started to handcuff John, not me.
Wow.
And I was trying to tell them to calm down and chill out. And they arrested me. What I ended up charged with was trespassing and resisting arrest. Neither which things I was doing. But the audio surveillance of Bob's Big Boy was somehow miraculously lost. The video surveillance was somehow miraculously lost. And like,
I feel this way. I feel with cops, and I look at both sides as being a black male, you know, knowing the Rodney King situation and the history with the LAPD. You know, I feel like
history of PD though.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like, you know, with cops, they have a job where, you know, as soon as they punch in, their life is on the line. Yeah. So I can see them going into a situation where they kind of have to be a little overly aggressive. They have to, you know, stand their ground, and they have to, you know, be forceful with you because they don't know who you are. And even though I know you're a really good guy, you play music and all that, they don't know that. Right. They could think, you know, you're just kind of like, good evening, officers. And, you know, they probably don't have people being friendly to them. Right. You know. Right.
But I think it's a matter of exercising perspective. The fact is that when somebody
if they thought I was going to shoot them in Bob's Big Boy, they watched too much
I think if the cops were genuinely afraid that BJ would have been able to detect, like, oh shit, like, I'm freaking these guys out. They're like, hey man, like, we don't know you, get back in your fucking booth, you know, as opposed to like, get in your fucking booth, asshole. And then like, oh, you're gonna talk to me some more? Backup, like, we need backup? You know, like, come on.
Three helicopters and like 18 cop cars.
It's also the difference of what would have, if the same two guys were sitting in that booth in shorts and t-shirts, just enjoying their day off together at Bob's Big Boy, and you walked up and you jumped in the booth with them and did that very thing, they would have told you to fuck off again, probably. Or maybe they would have talked to you at that point. Like, it's just, I think Keith touched on that point of once they're in uniform, they have to assume the worst first, because if they don't, there's nothing to stop. There's nothing to say that if the situation gets worse, that one of them isn't going to be involved, or worse, an innocent other person at the restaurant. Like, I feel like they have to assume the worst possible case, because if for some reason something spirals out of control, if a situation just starts to get completely out of hand and some crazy shit happens, they're the ones that are responsible personally for not containing the situation before it got to that. Right. So if that was my job, if I knew that at every given situation it was my job to make sure that that situation never got to that, I'm probably going to be a tight ass on everything and be like, stop that, stop. You know what I mean? Right. Like, that's a very dangerous mentality to go into any situation.
But I think that you would end up probably surprised at how many people are like bowing down to you, like the amount of encounters that you probably end up that you're not being radioed in for, the amount of encounters when you're just interacting with the public is probably a lot of people being intensely like ready to submit to, you know, like your authority out of respect, or probably because they don't want to get arrested or fucked over the head for no reason. Yeah. You know, so I think that, again, like in regard to perspective, like when you've been on the job for a long time, you start to recognize, like, you know, okay, moments where I need to be ready, you know. But in regard to just like person-to-person accountability, like to be able to recognize a person's intention and assess and go like, okay, like, what's realistically the situation here? And if I think that it's something that is about to get out of control, I can let the person know, like, hey, this is what's happening right now, and you need to go. You know, in which case the person can go. You know, but I mean, you can keep fucking cool.
One of the things, you know, that,
like, and I don't disagree with you. You have to be on point. You got to be ready for anything. Absolutely.
Well, that's something I realized from that.
Is like walking into a tornado all day long.
That's something I realized from that night, though, was that the problem isn't the police. It couldn't be. The problem has been way too long lasting and way too widespread. It's cross cultural. It's the problem. It was like the Berkeley prison test, where they had a bunch of kids be the prisoners and a bunch of kids be the security guards, and no one was guilty of anything, but the security guards like had a fucking weird mind thing going on. Like, and they ended up actually like suing the teacher because of this experiment, because of how fucked up it was, even though everyone agreed to it. But the thing is that if you're right, then the entire existential reality of being a cop in uniform is immediately putting these people, these human beings. They're not police officers, they're not cops, they're human beings.
That's true.
In an outfit with some training, it's putting them psychologically immediately in a fight or flight response to any stimulus at all.
Yeah.
Including a drunk kid walking up and saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. How's your night going?" To which any number of responses, including "Get back in your booth now," is legitimate. But like, "Not tonight, buddy," or like, "It's going really well, but if you leave us
I feel this way though. Going back to the original point,
you probably shouldn't approach the cops just from
But going back to the original point though of this kind of like the Apple product. And I do feel it's wrong and it's against our Constitution of free speech and just being able to video for the simple fact that one night I went to I was riding my bike to my ex's house. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I kind of wish someone had a video camera on this cop because I swear he pulled me over, put me up against a tree, and before reading my rights or anything, I promise you, would not exaggerate, the first thing he said to me is, "Let me know if you have weed now, and this will go way smoother." That's the first thing he said to me. And I don't even carry weed. I don't carry any drugs. I barely do any drugs. And, I'm kind of alcohol is a drug. But I don't do any of that. And for him to say that, I felt profiled in a sense. I'm not going to lie to you. I know it's kind of small-minded of me to be like, well, I'm black. He's pulling me over for this reason. Because I was on my bike. Yeah. It's not like I was all over the road or, I was driving or something. I was on my bike and he saw me. It is at night. Mm-hmm. I was wearing a jacket and pants, but he pulled me up, and that's the first thing he said to me, and I felt...
Is it illegal to ride your bike at night?
If you don't have lights and stuff.
Oh.
If you don't have lights. And I didn't have a light on my front. Oh. So, but I wasn't even in the road yet. Yeah. I wasn't even in the road. So, when he saw me, I just felt profiled, and I wish someone had a camera for that, because that could have went... if he was having a bad night or something, I'm not saying he would have, because that's just like, this is typically what happens. It's not. But he could have whooped my ass.
Listen, cops are in a place to project on people in the same way that the high school quarterback is. Okay. They've got a level of undeniable immunity. Like, they can, if they're having a bad day, beat the shit out of a complete stranger and go about ways of justifying it that let them get away with it. No one else has that positional authority aside from the people who guard prisoners.
But there's a difference between accepting that as a possibility and trying to influence the thought
that's
that
not
it's
a possibility.
Definite.
That's an absolute potential. That potential
same as
exists.
A possibility. That's the same thing.
No. Well, the possibility is the odds of it happening. But it can happen at any given time. Any given police officer has the potential to do that. I'm not saying that any cop is even interested in doing that. But any of them that are interested.
YouTube, aggressive police officers or cops being idiots, and there are thousands of videos of that happening. Yeah. And that's not to say that it's the majority, like you were saying before, but I also think that if cops were being recorded at all times, it should always work in the favor of the person who's doing the right thing. Anybody who's doing the right thing that is going to be in a position of conflict should be hoping someone is videotaping.
And video record is always going to be on the side of the truth.
I've never had an argument with my girlfriend where I hadn't wished that the thing had been recorded. To be able to play back and go nope, see, listen to what you said, listen to what give me a fucking
that was break. Recorded.
but it's very true. Right. And I've said that before.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But I think it's the same thing with cops, and the thing is that I also think that it would work the other way around, because I think that most people, if they knew that any interaction with a cop was being documented and recorded, that people would be far less indignant, and apt to go shit, this is being recorded, I should probably not be a dick.
Right.
It's the whole reason the Cops television show exists. That's all Cops is them following police officers with cameras. Right. Showing the police officer in the right and showing how absolutely retarded some of the people they arrest are.
Exactly.
People who usually at some point try to come back and defend themselves and be like, no, that didn't happen, this didn't happen. And the cops were having a tough time trying to, it did though. And prove themselves, and that's how the whole cops thing even
And if you look at the majority of them, the only reason I even approached those two cops at Bob's Big Boy was because of the relationship that I had with all of the cops in my hometown. They were all unbelievably hospitable, welcoming, cordial guys. They dealt with everything. Like,
I was going to touch on that.
Those
like how
guys,
territorial differences.
Officer Kevin Flint is the definition of cool. Like, that guy was in some crazy scenarios. Like, someone called the cops on me and a bunch of friends once, and all the cops showed up, and like half of them drew their guns on us, and we were just sitting in my car listening to music, and Kevin Flynn was like pulled up behind them and just told everybody to put their fucking guns away because it was retarded, and he walked up and was like, "What are you guys doing?" And we had no idea why the cops were there, let alone why they all had their guns drawn on us. But one of them actually recognized us and the situation, and just completely diffused it. Like, he was furious that those guys had drawn their guns on us because we were all like 16, 17. But that's the sort of thing, like, that's the kind of cop that I'm used to.
Right.
That you can just go like, hey, how's it going? If they're off duty, you can, hey, can I buy you a drink? And like, it's fine. It's because of the cop they are. And because they're a cop, and they deserve that respect because their fucking job sucks worse than anyone else's.
Yeah, but anybody going into any situation with a preconceived idea instead of like circumstantial perspective is apt to fuck it up. Like, which is why the guy with the Chick-fil-A camera fucked himself in the ass so hard with his own cock. because he had this idea that he was going to go through this drive-thru and talk to some bigoted asshole who was going to be like, oh yeah, fuck them faggots. You know, like, instead he rolled up and it was this sweet little girl who was like, have a nice day, sir. And he just kept prodding and pushing to try to get something, acting like she was like the fucking Grand Master of the fucking Ku Klux Klan. You know, like, and she was so sweet, but he just had this idea that he couldn't shake. He didn't drive up and go like, no.
He didn't let He didn't let the new information affect his behavior.
Exactly.
It's this premeditated plan.
He just had this old blueprint that he was trying to make fit. He was trying to like shove this square peg in a round hole, and it just didn't fit, and it got him fucking fired.
He committed, though.
I think that's what ends up happening with
and it was the fact that he could record it that made it all possible.
As a fucking idiot, recorded himself, and then even still couldn't register the information enough to decide not to post it. Like, what an idiot. You know? But
it's Darwinian filtering. It's Darwinian filtering.
But that's the same kind of thing.
We keep these people out of top positions. We keep them out of authoritative positions. Like, you can't you can't use pepper spray on someone sitting Indian style.
Right.
You can't be a cop after that. Your judgment is clearly, especially if you're just fucking strolling. Like, I think he was whistling. When he did it. It was just like there was just no threat at all in his physical body. He was just like, all right.
And that's what ends up happening. Like, even the cop that grabbed you and pushed you up against the tree, like, it's probably a run-in with people in similar situations, fitting a profile. But you have to, no matter what has happened, leading up to this situation, like, you have to be able to approach it and go like, okay, this is brand new, so I'm going to treat you.
You can't confuse potential with probability.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to say if you have weed on you and you just admit it now, it'll go much smoother. Yeah. Because it might turn out that you don't have weed on you and you're actually just a guy strolling over to see his ex-girlfriend.
Could that crack on me though? It's not. But no, honestly, I'm not. I don't want to make light of it. And when I say that, at the same time, I do appreciate the law enforcement. You know what? Because if he wasn't there, I could have rolled down the street, and there could have been a bunch of drug dealers there, and they could have whipped my ass. Something could have happened to me. And if the cops weren't there, I'd be fucked.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful what happened.
Everybody hates the cops until they need them.
But I'm not. But my initial reaction to this was, all right, I'm black, LAPD. I know what's about, or what the possibility could, what could happen. But I don't feel that way. You know what? And as I mature and get older, I understand. Like, look, it was 11:30 at night. I'm on my bike. Where the fuck am I going? I understand. It's
systemic, though. It's a thing. The cops are as much a victim of it as anyone else. It's a byproduct of what it is to be a police officer. The amount of stress that it entails.
I couldn't imagine.
I mean, it's unfortunate that, but on the other side, there is law, and the people that need to follow it the most are the people who are called to hold everyone else accountable to it. If you're a police officer, you can't fucking park in the red zone. You can't speed if your lights aren't on. And you sure as hell can't pull a guy over for being on his bike without a light and search him. That's against the law.
Actually, I think you can.
No, that defies reason, because the only law that he's breaking at that point is riding his bike without a light on, which is a ticket. Which means you should pull him over and write him a ticket and not ask him a single other question, because the only law that he's guilty of breaking at that point is the only one that's in question. You can't... The Fourth Amendment guarantees him and everyone, including the police, against that kind of bullshit. You can't pull someone over for having a taillight out and then search the car.
Yeah.
You have to have a reason to search the car. And a taillight isn't it. Like, oh, that guy's got a taillight out. He must be fucked up. Like, you can't do that. And that's...
Or he's got a taillight out and he's black.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
Watch this.
And allowing that stuff to spiral out of control has created opportunity for law enforcement to abuse itself.
You know, but
using police and thereby abusing the police.
If I can jump in, I feel this way about this stuff. You know, we don't know who that person was before he became a cop. You know, they say a lot of people that become, that get into power usually had a rough upbringing and all that. I don't. When I say that, I'm just trying to fucking sound broad, but it's one.
Wait till I become president.
No, I know, but if you hit the big time tomorrow, or if you hit it big tomorrow, any of us hit it big tomorrow, wouldn't you feel kind of licensed now? You can kind of get away with more shit. And I feel like the cops, they kind of feel entitled to that. They can get away with. They know it's against the law,
right,
but they're entitled to it. And I feel like, as human beings, we all do that. Especially, I know the next day, if I got money tomorrow from having a big comedy special, I'm going to do something stupid.
I guarantee you I would be getting into more shit, but it's just because I would have more access to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I would have more money. Like, I would probably have a vehicle that worked, which would infinitely broaden my realm of disastrous opportunity.
But I feel like you have to put things on the other side of the scale if you're going to take advantage of being able to take advantage of.
Right.
If you're a cop, I guess that's the thing, is that if it were more, I don't give a shit if you want to throw on your siren or your lights and go through a red light because you don't feel like rating, you want to park
fucking
it.
Everyone would do it.
Yeah.
But
turn on the siren.
But if you're going to do that, also be a fucking cool cop.
Okay.
Don't be a dick. Be accountable for...
If you are going to enjoy the entitlements, then you better fucking relay that enjoyment to everyone else that interacts with you.
Exactly.
All we're asking for is the cast of Super Troopers. It's just...
meow the shit out of me, and I'll be cool.
Even if you're going to employ some common sense and courtesy to a situation that would be otherwise uncomfortable, like pulling you over and saying, like, hey, listen, like... would you mind if I search you? Because right now you are fitting a particular kind of profile that normally in my interaction with them has not turned out very well. And you would be well within.
And you know what? Honestly, I would prefer, if you're honest with me, if he said you fit this profile, yes, I am profiling you, even though he doesn't say it like that. If he goes, I honestly 100%. I can say this now honestly. I would be like, sure, officer, please search me because I want you to get that suspicion out of your head.
Exactly. And then I want you to ride off and be like, cool, if you run into anyone else riding around on bikes and sweaters, let me know.
Hey, last time I came across a tall, lanky singer-songwriter carrying a guitar. He pulled a butterfly knife on me and I got this scar. Is it okay if I search you? I'm just super nervous
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. It's like the only thing...
Okay. That I can get behind.
I think experience
hey, can I search you for stuff that might incriminate you later?
Experience is huge.
Right.
That's what I think, from third-party perspective, looking at police officers, I think that experience is a huge factor in those decisions.
Right.
If every cop that was driving around was a cop on their first day, then it would be a much different situation. But when a police officer pulls over a kid on his bicycle, just was your example, every day for 10 days in a row, for 10 days in a row, and Keith happens to be the only one of them that doesn't have some sort of illegal narcotic or gun on him.
Right.
9 times out of 10, it still ended up being a situation that was illegal or could have led to something worse.
Right. Then
Keith was obviously treated improperly, but he was the way it goes by the wayside. I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's got to make a different impression on your mentality as a police officer if after you've seen certain situations, what they've led to, how you've had to handle them, and if it starts to repeat itself over and over again, it's hard, I would believe psychologically, for you to recognize when you're in a situation like that, when those events start to happen again, for you to step back and look at it unbiasedly.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like it's hard to do that. You know, I don't have that kind of complicated job. I'm a server. Like, I carry dishes right now part-time.
Well, I'm an apartment manager. I've got to exercise that kind of stuff.
I probably break one dish for every 99 that I successfully carry to a table. And my boss doesn't hate me because he knows that 99% of the time, I'm going to get that martini to the table. Right. If I drop one, people make mistakes.
But
if I drink it...
You as a server, I think, is a good example, because if you go to a table and you find out that they're European... Your immediate thought is, oh shit,
my first thought
dicked out of a tip.
is I'm going to get dicked out of a tip.
But you still, and then it's your choice to decide whether or not you're going to employ the exact same quality of service in the interest of giving them the most, joyous opportunity that they can experience because they've come out and this is your job, as well as they might be that one in a billion Europeans that decide to leave you a tip.
To leave you a generous tip.
And
which is also just another thing that is substantiated and created based on the history of repetition of they're European, they're European, they're European, they're European, no tip, $1, no tip, $1, no tip, $1. Like, the only reason that stereotype exists is because it's been successfully accurate over the past history of my 8 years working part-time as a server.
Well,
so it's absolutely... It's exactly my point.
It's not a stereotype of it if it's a statistical reality.
It's exactly my point of it's hard for me now when I get that table to look at it with an unbiased opinion and not automatically just approach the situation with my experience in mind and with my thought process of this is what's going to happen. And I think that as cops, you play that game on such a higher stakes level.
Because not getting a tip might instead be you're dead.
Right, might exactly be, or especially if you've been in a situation that you've screwed up before, where someone did end up severely injured or dead, or something happened where you were in the position to make the call, but because you thought you were overstepping your bounds, or you thought you'd play it cool. Like, I couldn't imagine going to sleep at night and realizing you made that mistake. You'd never make that mistake again.
That's the thing, is that's the logic that's led to an overstepping judicial and policing system. Is that we've gone from the crime is crime. The idea of a victimless crime is at best irrational, because crime implies victim, and yet most of our criminals, most of our people who are locked up in this country, are guilty of victimless crimes. Things like having the wrong thing on their person while a cop came into their presence.
Possession is illegal, and that's a victimless crime. If someone's in possession of narcotics, that's an illegal narcotic.
Right.
But there's no victim there.
We're talking about...
Aside from your own dumbass for having it on you in the first place.
Right. But we're talking about law enforcement moving from enforcement to crime prevention. And that's where it's become extremely dangerous.
I prefer...
Because I totally don't. I would rather have a system that let people make their own bad decisions, that yes, other people were involved, but that prevented policemen, jurors, and judges from making bad decisions.
But there are more innocent people affected by victimless crimes.
Yeah, but the thing then is, because I think that crime prevention is necessary, but not from the cops.
Right.
And that's
it's a social.
The issue
The same money that goes into crime prevention, if it went into education, there would be less crime.
Exactly.
It would be
because it's like people running around trying to put Band-Aids on fucking like a bleeding artery.
Right.
You know,
and instead they're putting assholes and they're putting dicks in bleeding assholes. Right.
As opposed to going like, okay, like, here's the situation, like the profiling that takes place for the same reason that when you're waiting on someone who's a European, you automatically assume that they're not going to leave you a good tip. Right. You know, but instead of going like, okay, well, you know, I can just keep profiling, or I can go, what can we do to actually make it so that the black guy riding around on his bike at night wearing a hoodie is probably not also involved in some shady shit? He's just probably a guy riding to see his girlfriend.
Absolutely.
Right. It makes, you know, I think the facts are extremely important, especially when you're enforcing the law.
I feel this way. I appreciate it way more, though, and I think this is something in life in general, where you experience something, you know, then you have license. I feel like when it's just passed down where, you know, it's a rookie's first day and the cop is just telling them, hey, when you see this guy riding the street at this hour, pull him over and get the drugs from him. But, you know, I'm like...
Even if it's passed down, even if it's from your own experience, it's not the way that the law works, and it's not the way that reality works. If there were 99 people in a row that cop had pulled over and frisked and found had narcotics and AK-47s down their backs and like, you know, just, it wouldn't matter if you were the 100th person. You're still not those people, and you deserve to be treated not like those people, whoever those people are.
Okay, hold on. Let's stop. Those people right now.
Why don't you just put quotes around it?
Those
people. Hold on.
Maybe.
I don't get what you're saying.
I feel like that is totally tied back to the whole...
I don't understand what you're saying, so I'm going to take it as disrespect. Keep going with the podcast.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we're done.
All right, I just want to say, Keith McMillan, please look for me in upcoming events. I'll be at open mics crafting my material, and hopefully one day soon you'll be hearing a lot from me with my stand-up material. And I'll be writing, and you'll see credits. I'm going to do sketch comedy and all that, so please...
We'll keep you updated.
Please add me as a friend if you want. Yeah, I'll be back when I...
We'll be linking sketches and stuff.
Yeah, if you see me riding my bike, pull me over. I got an AK and crack, so...
Yeah. He understands that he's probably on some shady shit.
Yeah. Even if you're not a cop, just pull me over.
All right.
The Irish life for me. Put a kiss upon the blondie, drink a Guinness in the morning. I'm a man from a land born free. Yo, 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 from the Atlantic to the Irish Sea. I'm as lucky as a 7 on the missing piece of heaven with my pipe and my rye whiskey. Yo, 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 tell me, do you hear that sound?